All right, hello there, thrill seekers, and that was a song called "Hand of Law" by Radio Birdman, and I just think that's one of the greatest songs ever. It's really simple, but the little walk up from E to G that happens in the song from the first riff to the second riff just gives me chills. I don't know why. It just goes E, A, F sharp, B, G, D, A. But it's just like, I love that. I love the way it goes from the one chord to the other. Just think it's great. So it's a good song, and go look up the video for it. It's on YouTube. So I got a comment a few days ago. I don't know how many days ago. It must have been a week or more ago, on a previous video that I did, that intrigued me, that I kind of set aside for a little while, and I thought I would talk about it today. And the comment goes like this: I don't know what enlightenment is, as I have never experienced it. However, I believe that an enlightened being would be identifiable as completely compassionate, selflessly kind, have appreciative joy, and know equanimity in everything, i.e. the four Brahmaviharas would be manifest in their actions and impossible to hide. So that's how this person who left me a comment would recognize an enlightened being. So how would you recognize an enlightened being? This is a question I've asked myself very often. How would I recognize an enlightened being? It's supposed to be part of my job. If I have taken Dharma transmission, I am supposedly an enlightened being. You make of that what you will, but at least technically on paper, because of the Dharma transmission, it implies that one who has received Dharma transmission is a so-called enlightened being. Like I say, that's more of an administrative thing than a claim of enlightenment. But supposedly I have to be able to recognize an enlightened being, or I'm able to recognize an enlightened being. That's what the Dharma transmission means. And that would mean that would be why I would give somebody else Dharma transmission. I'm sorry, I'm garbling my words. I would recognize somebody as enlightened and give them Dharma transmission is the idea. I have never done that. I have never given anybody else Dharma transmission. A number of the people who were also given Dharma transmission by Nishijima Roshi have done that, and I've often wondered, why did you do that? Why did you pick that person? Why did you take that step? I don't know. And so my question to myself is, how would I recognize an enlightened being? So let me just go over a little bit about the Brahmaviharas, and I'm going with Wikipedia here, and Wikipedia is mostly trustworthy, but ever since Wikipedia got certain details of my own life wrong on their entry with me, I think it's corrected now, but I've been dubious of Wikipedia because I've seen them make mistakes before. But I don't think they've made any big mistakes in the Brahmaviharas. And the Brahmaviharas it is a formulation from early Buddhism, from so-called Theravada or Hinayana Buddhism, however you want to call it. And it is not studied much in Zen. I can't think of any place in Dogen where he directly talks about the Brahmaviharas, but he might. He does talk about some of the formulas from early Buddhism, but generally it's not something we discuss a lot. But in people who follow Theravada Buddhism are often they often learn a lot about the Brahmaviharas. So I'm often kind of criticized by people from that section of the bleachers who don't like the fact that I don't know much about the Brahmaviharas. But if you actually kind of did a poll of Zensters, you probably would find people are mostly like me. They just don't know much about it. Anyway, here we go. Brahmaviharas means the sublime attitudes, literally the abodes of Brahma, Brahma being the highest god in the Hindu pantheon, depending on which version of Hinduism you're looking at the moment, but we'll leave that aside. They are a series of 4 Buddhist virtues and the meditation practices made to cultivate them. They are known as the 4 immeasurables, apramana, or the 4 infinite minds. The Brahmaviharas are loving kindness or benevolence, compassion, which is karuna. I know this from my friend Nina. She taught yoga at Karuna Yoga for many years. Compassion, that's compassion. 3, empathetic joy. And 4, equanimity. According to the Metta Sutra, which is the Loving Kindness Sutra, cultivation of the 4 immeasurables, that's Brahmaviharas, has the power to cause the practitioner to be reborn in a Brahma realm or a Brahma loka. So that'd be nice, I guess. Be a nice place to be reborn. So this person who made the comment said that it would be noticing that this person, the enlightened being, is completely compassionate, selflessly kind, have appreciative joy, and no equanimity in everything. And that's how this commenter would recognize an enlightened being. I wonder if it's that easy. I wonder, do I know what, for example, complete compassion means? Do I know what selfless kindness means? Do I know what appreciative joy means? And equanimity. Equanimity is one of these words I've always had trouble with. So let's just take equanimity. If we take equanimity for an example, as I said, I have trouble with that word, but I guess that means just like equal all the time, like just like calm and serene and cool all the time. And so I'm going to say that I would recognize an enlightened being as a person who never gets upset at anything, right? But if I made that my criteria, well, Nishijima Roshi and Tim McCarthy, both of my teachers, would not qualify because I've seen them get upset about things. One thing that's interesting about both of them that interested me when I first encountered it was that their getting upset about things would would be very transient. They didn't hold on to stuff very much. I think they held on to some things a little bit. I think we all do, but not as much as most people. So I did notice that about them. So let's give them a point there. I'm kind of improvising this. I don't have an agenda. I didn't have an agenda figured out, like where I was going to go with this talk when I started it. So, let's see where it goes. So let's say completely compassionate. Well, I don't know. I guess compassionate, but then again, Nishijima Roshi, for example, was a political conservative. And when the second Iraq war was going on under George Bush II, I don't know, what is he, Jr.? No, George W. Bush? Anyway, the second George Bush who was president, Nishijima Roshi was quite in favor of the actions that the U.S. government was taking in Iraq at the time. And a lot of people were upset about that because they're like, well, you're not being compassionate. The people are getting hurt over there. And so it was. So maybe I would disqualify Nishijima Roshi as being not completely compassionate. But then again, maybe he was seeing a wider version of compassion than I was able to see. I kind of wondered if that was true. And there were other aspects that really kind of transcended that for me. And it didn't really bother me as much in the end as it did in the beginning when that first came up. Selflessly kind. Now, what is selfless kindness? I mean, it is, you have an idea of what selfless kindness would be. It'd be like Mary Poppins or something. I don't know who would be selfless and kind. Like a fictional character who's just, kind all the time and loves little doggies and kittens and pets them and stuff. But then again, let's go for Nishijima Roshi again. Give him a little bit of criticism because he would light mosquito coils when the mosquitoes were getting thick and heavy in the Zendo. We'd bring out the mosquito coils, which is something I haven't seen very often in America. You see them in Japan all the time. They're basically a kind of incense. They're called katori senko in Japanese, and senko means incense. So their katori senko would mean ka is mosquito. So incense that takes away mosquitoes, I think would be a good translation of that. Anyway, there's little things you burn, little coils you burn, and they basically killed mosquitoes. And the ones they didn't kill, they repulsed, and they didn't come in anymore. But so he killed mosquitoes. I even saw him swat a mosquito more than once when they were really getting bad. Because we would have our retreats in the summer in Japan, and it was mosquito central out there in Tokei Temple. So there was a lot of them. So maybe he wasn't. What was it that what was going on there? Selflessly kind. Maybe he wasn't selflessly kind to mosquitoes. Maybe I should have rejected him on that basis. There's a lot of things you could reject a person on, and to me, what transcends all of this of trying to sort of fix in my mind, I keep looking back at this, instead of sort of fixing in my mind what would be complete compassion, selfless kindness, appreciative joy, and equanimity in everything, I tend to look at it on a more intuitive basis. It's how I feel around the person. Now, I don't sit around going, Nishijima Roshi and Tim McCarthy are enlightened beings. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. I don't really think of them as enlightened beings, because an enlightened being is a kind of fiction, I think. And that, I think this is what the person who wrote this comment is looking for. They're looking for a manifestation in flesh of an ideal, of a fixed ideal of almost a cartoon. There's some selfless compassion, the cop helicopter. And this person who made the comment, I'm not trying to single this commenter out, because I don't know who it is, actually, so I can't single them out. But I think a lot of us are looking for that cartoon figure person, the cartoon figure enlightened being, and this is where we make a lot of mistakes. You look at a lot of the people who floated over here in the 20th century, who were very impressive to lots of people as enlightened beings, and a lot of them failed spectacularly to pass the test of what enlightened beings should do. But they looked the part, and they sounded the part, and they were, out of central casting, as they say in Hollywood. They're like exactly the people that a producer of a movie or a TV show who wanted to have an enlightened being appear on the show would have cast as an enlightened being. There's the enlightened being who appears in one of my favorite movies, in the movie Head, the Monkees movie, and he's Abraham Sofar, I think is his name. And he's a character actor who appeared in a lot of shows, notably in Star Trek, also as an enlightened being. But the character he played in Star Trek, gosh, if I can remember the name of this character, I'll put it in the terop. Terop is what we call it in Japanese. It's the little thingy on the screen. The words. Okay, I'm about to tell you something wrong on this video, so I'm going to correct it. I tell you that Abraham Sofair played the friendly angel, aka Gorgon, in the Star Trek episode "And the Children Shall Lead." That's not true. Melvin Belly played the friendly angel on "And the Children Shall Lead." Abraham Sofair played a very similar-looking character called the Thasian on an episode called Charlie X. But anyway, everything else I said is okay, so let's just go back to what I said. But he appeared as the friendly angel, who was a kind of a good example, now that I think of it, of this phenomenon, because he looked and sounded like an enlightened being, and the friendly angel caused a lot of people to be attracted to him and give them their power, so that he could do basically terrible things. So the friendly angel wasn't very friendly at all. I think it was called the friendly angel. Anyway, that's what happens when you kind of go for an ideal of the enlightened being. Is you're going to be likely suckered in by somebody who plays the part exactly as you think it should be played, the central casting enlightened being. And I think maybe a better strategy is to forget about enlightened beings. Like the whole idea of enlightened beings, like I say, There's an enlightened being riding his motorcycle down my street here. We get a lot of that. This is a long street, and you get a lot of people racing down it. But so the enlightened being is a fantasy, and better, I think, to kind of hang around a person who seems to be a teacher and see what you feel. There's a kind of, I hate to sound like a hippie, but there's a kind of a vibe to them. There was a vibe definitely around my teachers that I could feel that to me transcended any sort of fixed image of what I thought an enlightened being should be like. Tim didn't look like an enlightened being at all. Nishijima Roshi looked more like Central Casting's idea of an enlightened being, but still, you know, he had a personality. A personality that could be a bit abrasive. Nisargadatta Maharaj is another good example. I think he's one of the greatest. But there are some films, because he died in 1980, so people were taking films and videotapes of him. And if you watch him, I can't understand what he's saying because he didn't speak English. But he comes off as a cantankerous old man, you know. If I didn't know that he was saying stuff about spirituality, for want of a better word, I would think he was just a cranky old man yelling at people. You know, that's what he comes across as. So you kind of gotta feel it. You know, I wouldn't put Nisargadatta Maharaj as no equanimity in everything. He sounds like a guy who didn't suffer fools gladly, and so, you know, I think this is maybe not the right criteria to judge. But then again, you know, judge for yourself. But anyway, there you go. That's my talk about judging an enlightened being or recognizing an enlightened being, which is, I don't know, just feeling, I guess. Anyway, there you go. If you want to help me be more enlightened, I don't know, you can go to the URL you're seeing on the screen below, which is hardcorezen.info/donate. That is hardcorezen.info/donate. There you will find links to my PayPal and Patreon accounts. Those are my pretty much only ways of making a living, and I appreciate your support. But as always, this is offered for free, so you don't gotta support me if you don't want to support me. We will see you next time. Have a good time all the time. Bye. Ziggy is hiding under the table from the heat today, so there he is. I'm sorry he's not doing anything very interesting. Hey Ziggy, how you feeling? Cool down there? Okay, we'll leave you alone. Bye.